Hello, let's start a new lesson today. And this lesson is going to be about the ancient Rome. Ancient Rome covers from the 7th century before Christ until the 5th century Anno Domini. So it's more than 1,000 years. It's a long period of history and a very relevant one. Let's start with some sentences that probably you have heard in Latin language, which is some of the legacy that the Romans gave to us. This sentence, for example, alea iacta est, is very popular. It means the die has been cast. Los dados se han echado, or los dados han sido echados. According to the tradition, it was said by Julius Caesar when he was going to declare war to another Roman who was his political rival, called Pompeius. So just before he started the war, he crossed a river when he was going to Rome with his army, the river Rubicon, and he said this sentence. Well, also, if you see the emblem of Spain, plus ultra, it says plus ultra here, it means far beyond. So, meaning that since the main event was the discovery of America, plus ultra means far beyond. They went far beyond the ocean and they reached a new land. They discover a new world. So that's why it says plus ultra in the emblem of Spain, far beyond. The Spaniards went far beyond the ocean and they arrived to a new world. And that's why these columns are landing on the sea. These waves represent the ocean. Also, this sentence means sana in corpore sano, healthy mind in a healthy body, so very popular even today. This one, errare humanum est perseverare diabolicum, it means making mistakes is human, but repeating the same mistake over and over is something to worry about. And it was said by this philosopher called Seneca. He was born in Cordoba, actually, in the Roman province of Hispania. Hispania was not only what today is Spain, but also Portugal and also a part of the north of Africa. This other sentence, si vis pacem para bellum, it means if you want peace, get ready for war. It's very popular among the military officers. And it means basically that if you want to live in peace, then you better have a strong and big army, so nobody will attack you. Or this one that is cogito ergo sum. Cogito ergo sum, it means I think, therefore I am. It was said by this philosopher, René Descartes, and he meant that he was wondering how can he be sure of his own existence. And he decided that since he was able to think about his own existence, then that was the proof that he actually existed. So that's why he said cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Pienso luego existo, a very famous quote. This is a coin, an American coin. This is 1 cent of a dollar. And in the middle it says e pluribus unum. It means from Latin, from many, one, meaning from many people that form this country, one single country. We are all united as citizens of this one country, of this single country. Okay, so it represents the union of all American in order to work for their country. E pluribus unum, from many, one. And if you like football, one. Lazio is a football team from Italy, from the city of Rome, and it's called Lazio because that region is called Lazio. This region over here, and in the old times, in the ancient Rome, was called Latium, and from Latium we have the Latin language, which is the modern language for current languages like Spanish or French or Portuguese or Romanian or Italian, obviously. Then let's get down to business. Now, was Rome a river civilization? Let's see. If we analyze this physical map, with all these mountains over here, the Apennine Mountains. And and we see that it's a very thin country. It's long, but it's very thin. We can see that there is no big river, so it was not a river civilization. Although we have here the Po River, but it still is not a very big river. So it was not a river civilization. That's why they gather wealth from trading, just like the Greeks. So the Romans expanded their territory militarily. Okay, so they actually conquered the new territories through war, not like the Greeks. The Greeks just founded some colonies, some commercial colonies, and that was it. The Roman expansion was actually a conquering expansion, a military expansion. And they conquered all the lands around the Mediterranean. All these lands around the Mediterranean were Roman. That's why they became so rich, because they could trade with everyone in the Mediterranean, with every people in the Mediterranean, because all of them were Romans. So they traded with every kind of thing, with every kind of material, minerals like gold or silver or vegetables, wheat, oil, also fabric like wool or silk, slaves, everything. This is the maximum extension of the Roman Empire. During the reign of the Emperor Trajan reigned at the end of the 1st century after Christ and the beginning of the 2nd century. And he reigned over all this huge territory. As you can see, the whole surroundings of the Mediterranean, and also some part of England, or what today is England, or Great Britain basically. So, and the empire extended from the Iberian Peninsula to the Middle East and Mesopotamia and Egypt in north of Africa. So it was a huge empire. This is the outline of the lesson. So you have to write this down in your notebook. Find some time to write down this screen, because it's the outline of it, and we are going to go through these points. Now, this is the legendary origin of Rome. Probably you have seen this sculpture before. This is Romulus and Remus. They were put in a basket and then thrown to a river when they were just babies, because some kind of family issues that I will tell you someday. And they were found by this she-wolf, and they could be fed by the she-wolf, and they grew up eventually, and they were the founders of the city of Rome. Eventually, they became mad at each other. They got mad at each other, and Romulus killed Remus. So Romulus became the first legendary king of Rome. But this story is not true, as you can imagine, and the truth is that Rome was founded by several people in the middle of the Italian peninsula, and then they declared wars to some other people like the Etrurian, and then they started conquering lands in the rest of the Italian peninsula, and that's how they became powerful. But when it was a monarchy, it was a tiny kingdom, basically the city of Rome, and that was it. It was a tiny kingdom. The first king was Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, and the monarchy basically lasted almost 100 years. It covered the 6th century before Christ. The first king was Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, and the last one was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, and he was dethroned by the end of the 6th century before Christ, year 509. Why was he dethroned? Well, he had a son, Sextus Tarquinius, this guy here, and his son raped a rich woman, this lady here, who was called Lucretia. Lucretia was raped by the son of the king, Sextus Tarquinius, and that was a big scandal because that woman was rich. He killed herself after the rape. So the scandal became even bigger, and the patricians, the rich people of Rome, revolted against the monarchy, and they dethroned the monarchy, and they created a republic. And the republic started in year 509 before Christ and lasted until 27 before Christ. So it became a republic, somehow democratic, and I'm going to explain you why. And this is the Senate, which was the main the main parliament in Rome, and I'm going to explain you the function of the Senate right away. So this is the social structure of the Roman Republic. On one hand, we have the citizens, and on the other hand, we have the non-citizens. The citizens were the patricians, rich people, rich families, powerful families. They occupied positions in the politics, in the Senate, also high positions in the army, and also they were businessmen, basically, rich merchants and then there were the plebeians. The plebeians were the middle and lower classes, basically peasants and artisans. And then the non-citizens, well, as just like in Greece, women, no matter if they were rich or poor, they were not considered citizens. The freed slaves that were liberated after some time, normally because they paid for their freedom. They were free now, but not citizens anyway. And obviously the cities, the slaves, they were not citizens either. Now, what happened in politics? The political structure is this. There were the magistrates. These people here were magistrates, the consul, the censor, and there was the political career was called cursus honorum. Cursus honorum was the political career. So the consul was the most important one. Normally there were two consuls at the same time, so one could watch the other. Then the censor was the guy who was in charge of the list of the people who could vote, who could participate in politics, so that was also very important. And also he used to watch over the moral values. Then the praetor was in charge of the judicial system, so all the justice was in the hands of the praetor. Then the curule aedile was like a mayor of a city. So there were many curule aediles because there were many cities in the Roman Republic. So like a mayor. Today we have the word edil de un ayuntamiento. It comes from this word aedile. Then the questor was a tax inspector. And then finally, the dictator position was extraordinary. Normally there was no dictators. Normally there were not dictators. If there was a big crisis or something really serious like a war or something, a dictator could be named, and then he had all the power in his hand. Okay, all the different powers like the justice and the taxes and the census and everything was in the hands of the dictator. But this position was not always present, only in times of serious crisis. Okay, so we could say that the cursus honorum was formed by these 5 positions: consul, censor, praetor, curule, aedile, and questor. Questor was the lowest one. So normally, if one patrician, one rich guy wanted to enter in politics, they started from this position, being a questor, being a tax inspector. Then he became a curule aedile, then a praetor, then a censor, and if he was lucky and he had powerful friends and, he knew the important people, if he knew the really important people, he could be elected as a consul. So these positions are called magistrates. So each one is a magistrate, and the whole political career was called cursus honorum, the whole political career from questor to consul. And then the dictator, as I said, was something completely extraordinary, just for times of crisis. This is the same thing, but in a graphic. Okay, these are the stairs. So as I told you, you start by being a questor, then aedile, then praetor, then consul, and the censor is by the side because it was not kind of on the same. It was not like part of the career, but at the same time, it was a very, very powerful position. Okay, the censor. So this is what we call the cursus honorum in Rome. Then what happened with the plebeians? Well, the plebeians they didn't have political rights. They couldn't participate in politics because they didn't belong to the high society, to the high class of the society. So they were tired of this situation, and they decided to give an ultimatum to the patricians, to the rich and powerful guys. They said, you know, if we don't have political rights, then we are going to leave the city, and we will leave the city with no peasants or artisans, and that would be a problem. So that's why the patricians decided to give up and give political rights to the plebeians. Okay, so and that's how this position was created in the year 493. Okay, like 12 years after, no, more than 12 years actually like 16 years after the foundation of the republic. This position was created, the tribune of the plebs. The tribune of the plebs was the representative of the plebeians. It was the representative of the plebeians. So he was a plebeian himself that was elected by the rest of the plebeians, and he could participate in politics. Okay, he could watch over the interest of the plebeians, the tribune of the plebs, although he was not part of the cursus honorum, because the cursus honorum was exclusive for the patricians, for the wealthy and rich families. Now, how were they elected? This is also pretty important. There were several assemblies. The most important one is the Senate, the one that I showed you before, the picture that I showed you before, the Senate. It was the supreme organ of power, and it was composed by the patricians, the wealthy families. Then it was the Comitia Centuriata, who was formed by senior military officers, meaning the high ranges in the army. And they were very important because they voted and they elected the consuls, the supreme leaders, also the praetors, the leaders of the judicial system, and also the censors. Okay, so that was a very important assembly. Then there was the plebeian assembly. The plebeian assembly was called Concilia Plebis, formed by plebeians, obviously, and they voted and they elected the tribune of the plebs. And finally, we have the Comitia Tributa, who was formed by different tribes. There were many tribes in Rome. Rome was expanding. Rome was growing in size, so there were different tribes. Actually, there were 35 tribes at the beginning of the Republic, and they elected the curule aediles, the mayors, and also the quaestors, the tax inspectors. So Senate, Comitia Centuriata, Concilia Plebis, and Comitia Tributa, these are the assemblies, very important organs of power. And finally, we are going to talk about the Roman law. The Roman law, today we still have to study. If you, for example, if you want to study laws, if you want to become a lawyer, I'm pretty sure you will have to study some Roman law, because the Roman law is the foundation of our legal system. And the very first time they attempted to create a legal corpus who was the same for all the citizens was this time during the Republic. And this attempt, this system was called the 12 tables, because there were 12 tables with all the written law that was equal, that was the same for every citizen. And then I would like to show you this. Probably you have seen this before, this symbol SPQR. It means Senatus Populus Que Romanus. Senatus Populus Que Romanus. It means the Senate and the people of Rome. The Senate and the people of Rome, meaning the Roman Republic is formed not only by the Senate, not only by the patricians, but also by the people, by everybody, by the plebeians and the rest of the society. And we are all united in order to make Rome great. That's basically what this symbol means. It's a very popular symbol. Probably you have seen this before. Okay, and now the activities. In this one, you have to tell me just the 3 different political regimes in Rome. So far we have seen 2 of them, but at the beginning of the video I said the 3 of them. Okay, so we have seen 2 of them, And then there is the there is the other one. Also, you have to tell me about this painting that we have seen before. What does this Titian's is the painter, okay? Titian's painting represent, and what does it have to do with Roman history? So what happened here, and what does it have to do with the Roman history? What happened here? I just told you a few minutes ago. And then you have to do this one, match with arrows, okay? This is the cursus honorum and also the tribune of the plebs we have here. Basically, the most important political positions in Rome, and you have to tell me which is which, the consul. Was he in charge of the judicial system? Was he similar to a tax inspector? So you just match with arrows, and that's all you have to do. You do this in your notebook, so we can correct these exercises in class next Tuesday, this Tuesday. And that's it. This is the whole thing. This is the first video about ancient Rome. I hope everything is understood, everything is clear, and I will see you in class. Have a good evening.